his one son who is here. Dr. Anupam Ray is a physician by education and was a neurosurgery resident before he joined the Indian Foreign Services in 1994. Dr. Ray is an educator, a diplomat, a scholar of history, political science and Sanskrit. Our scriptures, Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. I had a chance of listening to his comments at the University of Houston Board of Regents. Dr. Ray speaks German, Hindi, Bangla, Assamese, I don't know how to say, Assamese? Okay, and understands Punjabi and Urdu. Dr. Ray is a person of very unique, diversified background. I'm totally impressed with his knowledge and background. Dr. Anupam Ray started one of the India's most innovative diplomatic projects, the ambitious project of $500 million, Nalanda University, which was destroyed by Muslim invader Muhammad Khilji in 1193, 800 years ago. Nalanda University was one of the world's leading universities long before Harvard and Cambridge were set up. Nalanda was a center of excellence for philosophy, Buddhist studies, literature and mathematics. This project is very unique and India has opportunity to become an Asian power in the world. Nalanda University is located in Bihar. The university began its first academic year in 2014 with 15 students including 5 women. And the modern campus is expected to be finished by 2020. And this will be a wonderful thing that will happen in India. Dr. Ray has been a fellow at the Center of Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C., where he wrote a paper on radical Islam in Bangladesh. Yes, radical Islam in Bangladesh. Before joining as Consul General of India in Houston, he was a 2-year sabbatical. He was on a 2-year sabbatical as a visiting professor at the Patterson School of Diplomacy and International Commerce at the University of Kentucky. Dr. Ray was an employee of the Ramakrishna Mission, which was founded by Swami Vivekananda in 1897, one of the foremost thinkers and religious leaders of the present age. I'm mentioning this because of his diversified knowledge. Dr. Ray, our Indo-American community in Houston is very vibrant, like Jagdeep said, generous, pro-India, has many dedicated volunteers here. We will appreciate your involving young professionals, our children born and brought up here, who are very successful and doing great work with the programs in India. This will help them build closer ties with India, with the next generation of the people in the US with India. We would also appreciate your bringing scholars to Houston for lectures and seminars from India. Of course, bringing Prime Minister Modi to Houston will be wonderful. I know it is in the working. I've been told that next year we may have Prime Minister Modi coming here. As you know, Houston is the energy and healthcare capital of the world. I think in biosciences also, Houston is #1 in US. Dr. Ray is married to Dr. Amit Goldberg, Jagdeep mentioned, MD and an oncologist, and has 2 children. Again, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Ray, his wife, his son, and his father-in-law. I know you will enjoy listening to Dr. Ray. Thank you very much.
Though I'm at the mic, the real credit for this program goes to 2 individuals, Swapan Dhariwal. Where are you, Swapan? Stand and be recognized. And Karun Sriraman. And I would like Karun to come and say a few words.
And one of the things that I did notice, Dr. Agarwal, you forgot to mention in the introduction, before he started working at the IFS in the Foreign Service, he was actually an employee with the Ramakrishna Mission. And I think that's great enough in itself to be mentioned in here. So, he did say that. Well, I was thinking about my speech. That's right, yeah. Thank you. Well, I think that gives out pretty much everything. I don't need to repeat what was said. With that said, please give a Houston kind of applause for today. Thank you.
As Karan said, we would like to strongly acknowledge the participation and support of India House, especially Colonel.
So thank you, Jagdeep. Thank you, Dr. Agarwal, and thank you for your introductions. Before I begin, I'd like to, I never met Mr. Dhingra, but I've heard great things about him. And I join Jagdeep in remembering him, and also to convey the Prime Minister's condolences for the event that happened earlier in the day today. The Prime Minister of India has tweeted about this, and I think it's right that I mention that he's condoled, he's expressed his great sadness for what has happened before I begin. It's a great privilege for me to be able to speak to you today. I thank you all for the warmth of the welcome that has been extended to me and to my family. I thank you all individually and collectively for this honor. It is a good time to be an Indian diplomat. It is a good time to be posted in the United States as a representative of the government of India and of India. I must point out to you that oil prices started rising soon after my arrival here. And I see many more smiles and much more cheer in the grand Texas welcome than when I first arrived here. It is therefore an especially good time to be in Houston and in Texas. Let me begin with a quote. The United States of America are not an unknown country, even in far-off India. And many of us have grown up in admiration for the ideals and objectives which made this country great. It may interest you to know that in drafting the Constitution of the Republic of India, we have been greatly influenced by your own Constitution. It may interest you to know you will recognize these words that I have quoted and echo the great voices of the founders of your republic. You will see that though India may speak to you with a voice that you may not immediately recognize, or that may perhaps appear somewhat alien to you, yet in that voice there is a strong resemblance to what you have often heard before. Allow me to use another quote. You belong to India, a great country struggling under the most difficult conditions to lift up its people from the impoverishment of generations, and to demonstrate that can be done by democratic processes, and done better by democratic processes than by the processes of coercion and indignity which prevail in some of the neighboring areas. I think that we all have a deep sympathy for what you are doing. These words were spoken between 60 to 70 years ago. The person who was expressing his admiration for American ideals and objectives and acknowledging the influence of the Constitution of the United States on the Indian Constitution was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. He was speaking in Congress in 1949, barely 2 years after we became independent. The person expressing sympathy for the struggle of India under the most difficult conditions was John Foster Dulles, Secretary of State and a famed Cold War warrior when Prime Minister Nehru visited the United States later in 1956. It is my great privilege to serve as an Indian diplomat in the United States at a time when the Prime Minister of India has been invited to address a joint session of the US Congress. For the Prime Minister of India is today the Prime Minister of a country that is one of the fastest growing and most dynamic economies of the world. A country that is at the high table of international diplomacy. A country that is certain to acquire great power status and its imprimatur, a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. It's not if, it's when. A country that is a beacon for liberty and freedom. A country that, in spite of great challenges, never deviated from the arduous path of representative democracy. A country that faces many problems, but never ducks them, never attempts to sugarcoat them, and never backs down. Whatever the odds, we say to ourselves, in Latin, nil desperandum, never despair. We also never allowed us to forget what our intellectual inheritance told us. It is an ancient inheritance, the legacy of a civilization and a people that has seen many ups and downs, but a people who have always reminded themselves in good times and in bad, and our bad times have sometimes lasted for hundreds of years, that their gods say, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhyuthana nara dharmasya tadatmanam srijam vyaham paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavani yuge yuge. There will be times when dharma will reign, and there will be others when dharma will be in decline. That our gods or our guardians or perhaps the better angels of our nature will always assert themselves to restore dharma, to re-establish dharma, to protect those who follow the path of dharma. I'm proud to represent a nation that not only aspires to follow the path of dharma, but recognizes that dharma resides everywhere. Prime Minister Modi represents all Indians when he affirms that the only holy book of his government is the Constitution of India. We are not afraid of borrowing good ideas. We have remained steadfast in our admiration for the basic tenets of what the United States stands for. Prime Minister Modi began by referring to the US Congress as a temple of democracy that has encouraged and empowered other democracies the world over. In doing so, he was reaffirming what the Prime Minister of India had said in 1949 and what every Prime Minister of India has always acknowledged since then. I am proud of representing a country that never hesitates to acknowledge its debts and to honor them. I am proud of belonging to a country that not only honors its obligations, but will never, no matter what the cost is, accept an obligation that it sees as unfair. The famous Indian intellectual K. Subramaniam spoke to us during our training for the diplomatic service. He exhorted us never to accede to nuclear apartheid, a term which he himself had coined. We stood shoulder to shoulder with the African National Congress when it fought apartheid in South Africa. We will fight apartheid when it comes to international arrangements. Whether it comes to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Order, whether it comes to world trade negotiations, whether it comes to climate change talks, we will do what we think is right. We will not break the law, but we will not accept a law that we see as unfair, even if we are alone. That is the way we are. That is what our national poet Rabindranath Tagore exhorted us to do when he said, "Jodi to ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে। যদি কেউ কথা না কয়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা, যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফিরায়, সবাই করে ঘরে." Travel alone if you must. It matters not whether you're ostracized, shunned, hated, or feared. Travel alone if you have to. Openness, honesty, a proven track record. These are what makes India a reliable partner. That is why there is recognition across the United States, across all shades of the political spectrum, across all barriers and fault lines, that the relationship between India and the United States will be what President Obama described 6 years ago as the defining partnership of the 21st century. Governments come, governments go, leaders come, leaders go, but values endure, similarities in outlook endure. India is the home of the arranged match and arranged marriage. We understand that enduring alliances are based on shared values. The friendship with America will endure because it's based on shared values. Shared interests are developing and will continue to develop because we share the basic foundations on which we build our national lives. And nowhere is that similarity in outlook and values more apparent than in the success of the Indian-American community. I can do no better here than to quote Prime Minister Modi. Connecting our two nations is also a unique and dynamic bridge of 3 million Indian Americans. Today, they are amongst your best CEOs, academics, astronauts, scientists, economists, doctors, even spelling bee champions. They are your strength. They are also the pride of India. They symbolize the best of both our societies. We are proud of you. We are very proud of you. I have said it before, and I will say it again. It is one of the great privileges of my job to interact with the Indian American community. All of you in this room are successful. All of you are smart, affluent, law-abiding, hardworking, and creative. It is a privilege, in the truest sense of this term, to stand before you today. I look forward during my stay here to build and strengthen the bridge that connects our two countries. This bridge did not appear, it was built brick by brick, sometimes painfully, sometimes joyfully, through political understandings, through business deals, through song and dance and music, through yoga, through sport, through Hollywood and Bollywood, through Christmas and Diwali and Hanukkah and Eid, through books and doctoral theses and through joint research projects, through marriages and friendships, through philanthropy, through grieving together when terrorists strike, through celebrating when Mangalyaan reaches Mars and when the latest model of the iPhone emerges. All of you contributed, and I know that you will contribute to strengthen this mighty bridge between two great nations, separated by the oceans but joined in mind and values. The fact that we are proud of you is not an empty statement. That we value your contributions is not a facile expression. We mean what we say. The Government of India has its limitations, but its intent is clear in its actions. Over the past 2 decades, the government has consistently worked towards building the linkages that unite Indians across the world to India. And I'm proud of our record. Engagement with the diaspora is now one of the fundamentals of our foreign policy. When I began my diplomatic career, the only term that was used to describe an overseas Indian was an NRI, a non-resident Indian. The NRI of yesterday has been joined by the PIO and the OCI and now the OI. The multiplicity of choice I know infuriates and confuses some of you. I have only to see my email every day. That does not, however, obscure the intent. We are working within the limitations of law and systems. We are an evolutionary system. Evolution implies progression, movement in a positive and desirable direction. The determination of the Government of India to retain the affection of Indians everywhere is evident. We are determined to not let you go. You are not pariah dhan for us. Stressed and challenged as our government systems are, we have been able to create a network within the government that engages the diaspora globally. One of the principal verticals of our diplomatic establishment deals with the diaspora. All of us diplomats in the field are tasked with engaging you and with working with you. We will continue to refine our thinking and improve on how we interact with you and include you in our national journey. Through the Overseas Citizenship of India initiatives, through the various Pravasiya Bharatiya initiatives, and through constant innovations such as the Indian Development Foundation for Overseas Indians. We are constantly upgrading our consular operations through IT. We are committed to making an interaction with the Government of India a pleasant one. The tone is set by the Prime Minister and the External Affairs Minister. The Prime Minister's thinking on the diaspora and its services to the diaspora is evident. We are constantly conscious that the External Affairs Minister takes a personal interest in the well-being of Indians across the globe, that she is accessible to all of you, that I better address any issue that you might have before it is escalated to her level. I am in that spirit, constantly available to all of you. I have been told that I have a hard act to follow, and I am always happy to hear that. My intent is to add to the responsiveness, further improve service delivery, and to engage you more intensively. Our intent is also evident on how we have deployed our assets to come to the succor of Indians across the globe. 2 days ago, an Indian development worker was kidnapped in Kabul. We will do what we can to extract her. Our embassies and consulates are working with our Navy, our Air Force, and our own Air India, and we have evacuated thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, from conflict situations across the world. Whether it is conflict in Yemen, civil war in Libya, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, or earthquakes in Nepal, or tsunamis in Sri Lanka, we have not failed our people. No one has been left behind. It's a role of honor. Our humanitarian operations are now the subject of movies. And believe me, when you are in trouble, a movie star is unlikely to appear to rescue you. It is more likely to be a diplomat like me or my colleagues. We may not be charming or good looking. We are not always. We are not always pleasant. But we are there and we will do our best. Thank you.
we can assure you that everybody we have met has such a high opinion of you, Constable Ray. In the few weeks you've been here, you have really bowled over everybody, because everybody we have met who has had any interaction with you is full of praise. The order of the evening now is Swapan will deliver the vote of thanks, followed by a group picture with a representative of all the 22 organizations. You know who you are. So after Swapan proposes the vote of thanks, you will be inviting the Council General back on stage for this group picture, after which the formal program will be over, and then it is networking time. Swapan Dharyavan.
A difficult task for me because I'm not supposed to miss anyone or not to displease anyone. Let me tell you, this planning started way back mid-April. So when you came up, we did start that planning process, and the steering committee, the two stalwarts along with me over here, Jagdeep ji, Karun ji, and of course we are missing Manish ji. He is in California today, the India House President, but yes, we do miss him. So this was a part of the steering committee which we worked on this to bring together this program. All the organizations, all over here which are there, all 22 organizations have been very willing, very understanding, and very supportive of whatever we asked out of them. We gathered this data, we gathered this information all out of them, and here we are today on this rainy day, I would say. But the rains have gone. We are having a good time over here in Houston. Anyway, thanks all the organizations for trusting us, the steering committee, to do this job. Thanks again for trusting us on this. Manu Shah and Juliet Lopez, thank you for the interactive coordination that you did for the entire program as well. Tracking emails, listing the RSVPs and all those stuff, that's not an easy job. With 22 organizations, 10 each tables, changing names here and there, it keeps on happening till afternoon today. Thanks a lot to India House for being the perfect venue and the host, Vipinji and data staff. They were very, very courteous. Thank you so much. Darshak and Mona Thakkar with the sound and PA system as always. Thank you so much. Vijay Dikshit, as always, a fabulous photographer in town. Clicking the pictures and the memories for all our future sake. Christina, who does all the elegant decorations for the evening, the very beautiful decorations that we have. The media today who have come out, the print and the telecast media, thank you so much for joining in. Then of course, the foods that we had, Mahesh Bhai and Rajan of Madras Pavilion, thank you so much for that very, very delicious food. Mahesh Bhai made it sure that even in spite of his daughter's graduation in Chicago, he said, no Swapanji, I will make it happen and you will have the best of the courses over here. Thank you everyone, all the volunteers who were there for the day. Excuse me if I have missed out on any one of you. It was not intentional, absolutely. Thank you all the attendees for making this a joint event and a cooperative effort a big success. And now I would like to invite the organizations in their order, which I'm going over, to come up on the stage, and then of course the CG and his wife will join us at the picture. So we have the